All right, let's cut to the YouTube video. Buy, sell, hold.
Yeah.
Who we doing this week? I'm going Diontae Johnson first up. Steelers. Now, we might not get Kenny here on the short week, but
They said that he might be back.
yeah, I don't know. I think I'm okay with Kenny
He's a
sitting
warrior.
out. I'm okay with Kenny sitting out this short week here. Just let him come back a little later. But Diontae, through the 3 games that he's played, 26 targets, 16 receptions, 212 yards, no TDs. Could have had one in this last game. Kenny was a little late, and then the field being wet, Diontae slipped. Didn't quite get it there.
Oh, no, that was bad. I remember watching that play. It was bad. He was wide open for several seconds.
Certainly wide open. Kenny was late, and then it's probably a touchdown if it's dry, even though he was late.
Yeah.
So
you know that Diontae Johnson hasn't scored a touchdown since the Trump administration.
Yeah, he is dry as a bone touchdown wise. 0 TDs, which is even more impressive, the amount of points that he puts up. But right now, under that short career or short 23 arc for Diontae Johnson, he is at a career high in air yards and yards per target. So normally a shorter guy is things are a little deeper right now for Diontae Johnson. All good things. Touchdown should have been in the Biden administration this week. It's coming. But what are we doing with Diontae Johnson? 27 be 28. It seems like it's a tale as old as time. He's a guy that I want on my team, but are we trying to get out from healthy Diontae? I mean, a lot of trips to the blue tent. At any Big D, what are your thoughts here? Buy and sell and holding Diontae Johnson.
For me, I'm holding. I don't necessarily think I'm going to go out to buy him as a contender just because of Pittsburgh, not because of the player. And I don't think I don't think I would sell him at this point because I think he's proven all the stuff that you just said. Holy Toledo, his college. All the stuff that you just said. I mean, he hasn't had a touchdown, but I mean, he's always talked about because of volume. He kind of reminds me of Keenan Allen from 3 or 4 years ago, where Keenan Allen was just, he'd get injured, he'd get diced up and down the field, and get all these catches, but he just wasn't in the end zone until Herbert came along. And so I feel like that can be an arc for him that I feel pretty good about. So I'm on a hold if I have him. I'm maybe on a slight buy if I want him. But again, it's a future play, not at this point in time. I'm typically, for the most part, I'm going to be buying for stuff that's going to help me this year, not necessarily for next year. So that's where I'm at.
I think I'm probably gonna hold, but I think I'm probably just gonna. I think I'm gonna sell. I think he's moved to the wide receiver 2 role for the most part in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I think Pickens has been Pickett's favorite target up until this past week, when I think that Diontae had like 14 targets in the first half.
16.5 PPR points for Diontae this week.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm gonna try to sell where there's still some value there. He's 28, but he's not a speed merchant, so you think he should probably age pretty gracefully here over the next couple.
Let's not
27,
age him too
sorry.
much.
27. Sorry.
Not even and a half.
I was thinking about somebody else that's coming up here that they're 28. So he's 27. He's not a speed merchant. He should age gracefully here. So
Jakobi Meyers or Diontae Johnson? It feels like Diontae Johnson right now is Jakobi Meyers before Jakobi Meyers was scoring these touchdowns that have really elevated Jakobi Meyers' stock a little bit here.
Man, if only would have bought Jakobi Meyers when he was going in like the 14th round of startups.
Big D, Jakobi Meyers or Diontae Johnson?
Jakobi for me, just because of cost. I still think you can get Jakobi cheaper than Diontae in most leagues.
You think?
The value's higher on Diontae, so you take Diontae then. I'm not.
I would take the cheaper of the two because I agree they're both in the same like tier-ish for me. So if I'm going to buy one, I would buy Jakobi. Yeah, you could buy Gucci. I'm going to buy Walmart.
He's looking at it from a buying perspective because one's cheaper than the other, and he thinks he can get similar production. So
it wasn't like which one would you rather buy. It was like if you had one or the other, which one would you rather have?
That was his spin.
So you wouldn't trade Jakobi for Diontae Johnson?
Correct. Straight up, I would not. I don't see the point in it, personally.
All day I would do that.
Matt? Big Jakobi energy over there.
Yeah, big Jakobi energy. Big. BJE. I still think if you're talking about it from a pure value perspective, it's still Diontae, but I'd rather have Jakobi for the same reasons Big D just said.
Okay.
For him being cheaper?
Just similar.
If we're talking about in a vacuum, in a vacuum, I'd rather have Diontae. But if we're talking about who I'm trying to buy, it's probably Diontae is probably cheaper right now than Jakobi is.
So 100% holding Diontae. He
Yeah.
was a big buy for us in the offseason, and you didn't get to see what you needed until right now. And that's just 2 games. Like, I think this can continue. Maybe Pickens is the top dog over there because he's a fucking G.
Different players.
But Diontae
different
is
usage.
he's out there. He was just getting peppered.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's healthy. Healthy Diontae crushes.
Maybe something.
July 5th birth date,
He's
so
never
he won't
fully,
even be.
never fully healthy. He's in and out of that tent.
Yeah.
It's like he definitely has tent residency. How about is there a way
You're
you
going to say
could,
tent residue.
is there a way that you could turn Gabe
It's
Davis
intense.
into Diontae Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd do that.
How much more do you give up for Gabe to turn Gabe into Diontae?
Might not need anything.
Is that an offer that we should be sending right now? It's just try to swap in Gabe for Diontae?
I'm down.
I think that's a good plan. Yeah, I mean, maybe that would be the first offer. See if you can get a counter. If it's an instant reject, then maybe a conversation. But
You do a 2-3 swap to get it done?
yeah, I think I'd do that.
It feels like Gabe in a 2
On a
might
contender.
be a little too much right now with Gabe being, kind of a little hot, running hot right now. So I just feel like I don't want to necessarily have to give up the 2 to get Diontae, but
I'll give up the 3.
But I'll give up the 3 or the 2-3 swap. Doesn't feel as bad. All right, well, let's move on to our next guy. Enough time spent on Diontae with an A and an E at the end. Frustrating.
And the I after the D.
All right, frustrating name to type in with autocorrect. Let's go Josh Downs next. The guy who's been on pretty much all of our buy lists here all season long.
Except for maybe that guy.
Yeah. Can I go first?
He does not like Josh Downs.
Buy, sell, hold, Joshua Downs.
I'm holding.
Holding?
I've been wrong. I'm wrong. I was wrong about him. I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. I was wrong. He passed Pierce on the depth chart quicker than I thought he was going to. He's been super effective since getting a full-time role. I was wrong. Hands up. I was wrong.
I like it. Big D, what do you think? What are you doing with Downs? With Josh Downs?
I did have a little bit of love for Alec there in the beginning, just like Matt. But I think Downs has always been one of those players that was a great 3rd, 4th round target for me in most of my leagues. And I'm just looking at his snap share has stayed steady, and his target share has seemed pretty solid. And I don't think that's going to change the rest of this season with Gardner. But the more important thing is you saw what his share was and what it kind of looked like with Richardson in there. So AR he still had decent decent target share. There was a lower floor, I think, with Richardson. So that would be maybe my one thing where I would say, okay, well, Downs or even Pittman, like maybe this is the time where if you don't believe in those players, you could probably get out because of Gardner lifting up that floor a little bit for the wide receiver position. But for me personally, yeah, I think I'm holding and kind of like Diontae. This guy would be a lot cheaper. I probably would be buying on a contender and adding in pieces on a non-contender, I guess. Selling off like I don't know, what about Hopkins for Downs?
Nuke?
Yeah, Nuke for Downs.
I think after this big blow up from Nuke, I think you've got probably a little bit of leverage there. I mean, at this point, it's probably semi fair, semi close.
You down to do that?
Especially if my team's trending one way, as being less and less of a contender. Potentially, I mean, we don't know exactly where Levis is going to be here, but the first game looked like we got a little bit more vertical attack from him.
He's the best ever.
Right.
I don't know if you knew, but
I actually, Downs seems like he could be fine from week to week. Definitely trust Hopkins a little more at this point, but yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, like you said, the downside is you may go through some growing pains next year with Richardson back in the fold there, where it's not as fun, as it was right now. Right now, he's wide receiver 30 on the year, but weeks 5 through 8, he's really picked it up. Wide receiver 10 in that mark with 16.6 points per game, 53 targets, 40 receptions, 2 touchdowns. So, really, really solid production here for the rookie year. I wasn't out on Downs like Matt per se, but I did think that maybe it might take a little while longer because of how, the role that he was going to play, a lot of slot, and it just simply hasn't, and he's kind of proved that he could play. I've been buying, and he was usually a piece in a deal. Like I said, I did a deal with Kamara and got him thrown in with a second and a third, and Calvin Ridley, Kamara and Calvin Ridley for Hollywood, Downs, a 2 and a 3, is what I made that offer with. So that ended up, the guy came back the next week and was like, "Damn, you got me for Downs," basically in the group chat, and I was like, "Yeah, it's But that's what I'm always doing in these pieces, in those trades, especially on the rebuilder. I'm throwing in guys like Downs. There may still be a buy window on Downs, but it certainly has gotten more expensive. Would you pay a 2 for Downs right now?
Sure.
Yeah, all day.
I would wait 2 weeks, and then I would try it for cheaper than a 2.
You're hoping that the production falls
Dude,
off.
there's no way you're getting it for cheaper than a 2. You already saw what he can do, and you paid a 2 to get him, so you're not going to sell for less.
You paid a 3. Everybody essentially paid a 3.
I don't know about that.
I don't think I saw Downs go one time in the second round. And when we were drafted mostly later, earlier probably second round was a little more comfortable. But in the 5 or 6 rookie drafts that we did late, Downs was 3-3-ish player. Maybe some people will take their money back, or maybe they're worried about the Richardson thing, so there may be still a little leg room there. Go ahead.
Let's put it this way: he's not going to go up in price in the next 2 weeks when they're on the road, and then he has a buy. So I don't know if I would go buy him right this moment. I mean, I don't see him going off against Carolina or New England, at Carolina, at New England, and so that's kind of why I said that is like I'm definitely down to buy Downs, and if it's the time, then it's the time. But I might wait a couple weeks, and I might be able to do a third, 2/3. I might be able to get him for whoever. We just talked about how Nuke has been pretty much inconsistent. He just went nuclear. He pulled himself, right? He pulled a nuke. And so there could be a player that pops off that I don't really like that I could throw into a deal with a third. There's different positions and spots like that. And if I'm competing for the 101 for next year, I definitely may not want to add him yet because it adds points to my lineup. So it's just a strategy thing. Like if you're asking me in a vacuum, I definitely would go buy him. For a contender second, especially. I mean, that's a late second. I don't think I would give him up for that at this point.
Good answer.
Yeah.
So there's still time to buy Josh Downs. Is that what you're going to say?
It seems like there may be a little bit of room there. Romeo Dubs or Downs?
Whew.
Downs for me.
I just love Dubs, man. And Dubs is a touchdown scorer. But Downs might be the higher floor, more consistent play.
I think I'm still going to lean Dubs just slightly, but you could convince me either way.
Yeah, that's pretty close for me. I'm sticking with
Can
my
I
guy
get you
Romeo, I think, but I think the floor play is better with Downs, and I think maybe there's a ceiling for Romeo moving forward that might be a little bit better.
Did you say foreplay?
Yeah, sure. I did not. Rashee Rice or Downs?
Rice.
Really?
I'll go Rice as well.
It's pretty easy. It felt like
you're sticking with Downs. I like it though. Big turnaround from.
I think I might like Downs more.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving here. Let's go. Who's next on the list here? What do we got? Javonte Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Nice bottle of Chianti. So also been on the buy list for a while for me. Seems like this was the game where he didn't really break out per se, but we're up. Snaps were up. 27 attempts were there. 31 snaps, most by far all year. Hadn't broken 20 all year here. Was 4th in week 8 rushing attempt percentage. 15.8 target percentage rather. That's good for 7th. Only 85 yards. 3 for 3 on target receptions. Only 2 games below 3 targets this year. I don't necessarily know that he's all the way back per se.
He's not.
He looks fine in the movement, but I don't think the explosion is necessarily back all the way. So I think there's probably still some room because he hasn't blown up to buy.
Yeah.
But if you're an injury who's like, hey, I've been holding Javonte, this is probably a sell window for you here and kind of say, hey, he's back, he's healthy, and maybe you can get a little uptick in value. But I'm still buying Javonte in this.
I think wherever you were before the season is what you're still going to do. If you were selling Javonte, this is your time to sell. But I'm with you. I think there's still a buy window here. He's still not playing the majority of third down work or 2-minute drill. So
when you click on the points, nothing's blowing you away. So there's still a window to get in there and bargain, I think.
For sure.
But for the seller, there's a window saying, hey, look at he's on the way back. They were playing with a big lead here. against the Chiefs, who they hadn't beaten in so long, and so the 27 attempts, I can at least rationalize why it didn't go well if I'm trying to sell. But I like to see that he got as much run. Big D, what's your thoughts, Javonte Williams here?
I'm on the buy side as well. I think that, obviously game script, up those carries quite a bit, but I also think it's because they're going into their bye. I think they wanted to test him, to be honest. Like, I think there's something to that there where they wanted to see how he did with a higher workload. Maybe I'm just, pulling stuff out of my yin and yang, but
you can
but
say ass.
Hey, he said ass.
What the
ass? Man.
But I think that he's definitely so he was a 2024 target, right? I think in the beginning of the year we wanted to buy him with the concept of he's going to come on towards the end of the season and then be all in 2024, and he's ahead of schedule, and at least from a fantasy outlook, in my opinion, just the way that he's looked, the way that he's played, and each week he looks like he's got a little bit more from what I've what I've gained. Thanks. There we go. And so I think that, game script and just the fact that they're going into a bye, I think they wanted to ride him a little bit and see, not hurt him, right? But just to see how he performed and where his endurance was at. And I think he passed the test. So I think going forward, if you're going to buy him, on his bye might be a good time. You might be able to catch a little bit of a break because of, somebody needing a running back. So normally in leagues that I'm in anyways, I don't often see a running back and go without another running back in the mix, right? And so you probably could go out and pull them. And
would you pay a first for him?
Yeah, if I'm a contender, heck yeah, I would pay a first all day.
Anybody not pay a first for Javonte right now?
Yeah, I could see you not messing with Javonte.
It's all
Williams.
subjective. Obviously, if you think you're a high end pick, that you're not taking Javonte. But anything, mid pack or later, I
think a first is fair, and I wouldn't want anything less. And if you're a rebuilder or you're not winning, and you're not excited to have Javonte come back for you in your lineup right now, then I think it's a good time for you to shop him. But if you are competing and you're like, oh shit, then I think it's a good move. And I think if you're looking for a running back, it hasn't gone buck wild, so it's a good time. So I could see all different angles on this depending on your circumstance.
Brian Robinson Jr. or Javonte?
Javonte by a mile and a half.
Javonte, so that you'd send that deal out right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you start with 2-2s to the Javonte owner and see if you can figure something out. And then Brian Robinson Jr. was kind of a guy I was eyeballing there. How about Kyren? Sticking with Kyren here?
Nah, all day I'll take Javonte.
You'll swap Javonte for Kyren? It's hard to get rid of Kyren right now because of what he's been putting up. If you're a contender, he comes back and you're hoping you're going to get right back to where you were. He's still RB 8 on the season, Kyren. But everybody would be into figuring out something with Javonte for Kyren.
What would you have to add on top of Kyren to get Javonte?
I'm not sure you. Well, I think you would, but so even swap, everybody's in.
100%.
Big D.
Yeah, Javonte side. Yeah, 100%.
I think you might have to add a second on top of Henderson. On top of Kyren to get Javonte.
Would you do that, Big D? Kyren and a 2?
Yeah, I would do that
for Javonte. Jason, you look into
especially if it was my 2.
Yeah. Good point.
My concern with Kyren is the fact that we've had these other guys come in and look okay, whether it be Freeman or whether it be
Kyren doesn't look special. Kyren is capable, and Kyren was in a good situation. Kyren can catch
volume,
and the volume was out of control. And look, and he's on IR.
Good.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, he's one of the best pass protectors.
Yeah,
but he's on IR.
I could see him being in a split role somewhat next year. Although McVay seems to be liking a little bit more of one guy than the other. So, but I agree. I think that might not be the worst, especially if you're not a Kyren believer. You're not a believer. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go. Let's throw Will Levis out there. Guy had a good game here. Obviously, we know fucking nothing, but
he's not a bust.
He went.
He's not a bust now.
18 for 28, 234 and 4 touchdowns. Push the ball down the field, which you like to see, and what you got a good view of was arm strength from Will Levis here, and that there's a possibility of explosive plays, all of a sudden with Tennessee here. So it seems like at least a breath of fresh air for all your fantasy players on Tennessee. I don't know how they'll call the game. Atlanta's not a bad defense, and really he put it away with that Westbrook-Akine touchdown where he was kind of falling back and threw it 60 yards and put it exactly where it needed to be. And that game was kind of waxing and waning a little bit. And that was just a huge declarative statement where, he throws his hands up on the ground. Awesome play by Levis there. I thought in general played pretty well. Some misses, some underthrows, some overthrows. Chig dropped a big one where he was wide open. Chig could have had a bigger game. And
Burks dropped one and then ran a wrong route a couple times.
Right, and Burks right up the sideline there was close to another big pass. So getting a little more vertical with the offense, at least week one with the Titans. Still playing a little cat and mouse, saying, well, if Tannehill's not healthy, then Levis would be the starter, which is the most Tennessee thing ever.
The thing I was surprised about was the 6 carries for 11 yards.
From Levis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can get the leg upside, which is kind of there.
It's definitely there.
So if you can get that, those are what you want from your. If you can get the vertical passing attack plus some scrambling ability, that's going to elevate your points per game for the QB to another level. Will Levis buy, sell, hold? Big D.
Buy for me. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what I pay, but I mean, in a quarterback thirsty society that we live in Superflex, I think I don't see why you wouldn't try to buy him. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to buy him for a contender first, anything like that. But I would probably send, if I'm a contender, I might send my first and expect something back. Maybe a 2. If I could do a 1-2 swap with a team that's just looking to get first, this next year and not really paying attention to that their 201 is basically a first. Maybe I'd do that kind of deal. I think I'd be okay with that. So I guess my price on him is probably a second with a first to second swap on a me being the contender, them being a bottom 3 team.
Matt, thoughts?
I'm just a pure hold. I'm not going to make a rush judgment after one game. It certainly looked good, but
sure.
I just think I'm not gonna. Now, if I can do a 1-2 swap on a bottom half team, then yeah, I'll do that. That seems like a pretty easy move to move back 6 spots to get a potential start at quarterback. So if I can get a sweet deal like that, then I'll do that. But I'm not going to rush to make a move.
I don't think you have to rush to buy him. I definitely in the hold camp. I mean, I'm not going to move him for a 2. I probably paid a 2.
You probably paid a 1.
Is he a first round pick
in Superflex? I don't know how he would make it out of the first in Superflex unless it was like 10 teams.
It was probably a lot. Like by the end, it was probably a lot of 2-1, 2-2 area. So it's semantics really at that point. It's just like kind of what we were just talking about Josh Downs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might send it out to see if anybody's really overzealous with the Levis. If I could somehow get myself in a top 4 area for Superflex next year. Levis off the game, thinking it's really but that would probably be one of the only scenarios where I would do that if I could really Levis and add something and go up to one of those great tiered quarterbacks or a high end first. But other than that, probably a strong hold for me just to see. It's worth a ticket to the show to see what you got here in Levis, which is exciting. I think at least it was exciting. I don't think how you can put that cat back in the bag.
Yeah, I thought that they said they had ruled him as the starter, but it makes sense that they would say some dumb shit like that. But I mean, one of the reasons why I wasn't huge on Levis coming out of college, but then when he got drafted to the Titans, it was like, okay, well, for some reason, like we're the only people that respects the Titans. No, everyone else just shits on the Titans all the time, and I don't understand because they're perennially like always in it and always decent and in every game and usually make the playoffs and like almost did last year with Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
So I like the organization. I like the structure and the setup, and I like that he's got Nuke there and got Treylon and Derrick Henry helps a massive amount.
Bringing up Nuke there just goes to show you what a veteran wide receiver who's a 1 can do for a guy who's making his first couple of starts. What a fucking luxury. And we criticize so many of these other guys who don't have that kind of, look at, Jordan Love started off hot fantasy-wise, but now everybody's killing him. But it's like, you have nothing but rookies basically surrounding you. You got this super young fucking team. You know, Jordan Love's probably is going to struggle a little bit. You know, the Tennessee's just got a little bit different of a setup there. Now, obviously not nearly as good of a potential supporting cast maybe moving forward as what Love would have. But, you know, with just bringing a wily veteran like Nuke in, huge for a guy like, you know, just that first touchdown pass. How much confidence do you think was instilled in Levis where he just throws it up? Nuke definitely OPIs on that first touchdown pass. I mean, they're tangled up and Nuke's like, yeah, well, if we're going to do this, I'm definitely winning. And basically throws the dude to the side and catches it. All of a sudden, you're like, all right, word, let's go. And you know, not a lot of guys are doing that, especially younger guys, especially not Christian Watson. Soft.
He's like Chase Claypool, but
yeah.
a little better.
Anyway, all right, let's keep it moving here.
A lot better.
Let's keep it moving here. Let's do one more real quick. I wanted to hit Terry McLaurin before we got out of this buy, sell, hold. Interesting because I feel like the Commanders were at an odd usage with their best players there for a little bit, and it seems like we're at a little bit of an uptick. McLaurin had a big drop or two in this last game, but his ADOT, everything was kind of on the rise a little bit here. He's wide receiver 22 on the season. He's had 10 targets, 5 targets, 11 targets, 9 targets, and 12 targets. 80 yards in 3 of those 5 games, and the other one he was just outside of it. Double-digit fantasy points in 6 out of the 8 games. I think one of them was like 8.9. Only 2 TDs, 14th in targets on the year. So, but 28, and you know, Sam Howell seems like he could be the guy, but we're not 100% convinced on what the quarterback play is going to be, which has always been the bugaboo for McLaurin, and he's been good regardless. So there's been a nice little, if you pull up the points, nice little resurgence of Terry McLaurin here. It's an option to get out, it seems, possibly, and a little bit of love being heaped on Howell after the last 2 games he's played against Philadelphia. Thoughts on buy, sell, hold Terry McLaurin, Big D?
I don't know. Matt, why don't you go first? I got to think about it.
I think this is the guy that I want to sell. He's coming off of he's the 28-year-old I was talking about earlier. He's 28. I don't know what's going to happen in DC. Is the riverboat finally going to sink?
It would seem like it.
You know what I mean? What does the quarterback play look like going into next year? Is it Howell? Is it who? I don't know who it is. You know what I mean?
Somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Dotson had a great week this week. You still have Curtis Samuel, who didn't play this week, as a thorn in his side for production standpoint. So, I mean, if I can get if I think you can still possibly get a first for him, whether it's a late first, if I can still get that late 1 straight up, I'm gonna do that. But I'm not gonna sell for a 2. I need a 1 to get rid of McLaurin, which I still think is fair.
Yeah, I feel like, what are you supposed to do with Terry McLaurin, because nobody likes him and you don't even know, and like, unless you have him. So it's almost impossible to sell him because you can't get the value that you want for him for one reason or another. He's on the Commanders. He's 28.
I mean, that's what I think right now you might have a slight window, so there may be some opportunity here, but you're mostly right. He's kind of a forgotten
He's
good
just kind of like, he's probably going to die on your team because you're never going to get a good value for him.
Got the Amari Cooper treatment?
Basically. I mean,
I'm not saying he's quite on Amari's
not
level.
quite there, but it's not necessarily his
He's in the
fault.
ballpark.
Yeah.
And he's just a stud. I mean, he makes plays.
I mean, you could have 3
He did
more
actually have a couple of bad drops, really bad drops, but
you could have 3 more years of 15 to 20 point production here from Terry McLaurin week in, week out.
And maybe Rivers is there, Riverboat Ron, maybe not, but you know, Bieniemy might be the next in line for that. I don't know. Maybe he goes somewhere else to get a head coaching job, but
I think I agree with you, Matt, though. I think if you can get close to a 1 value or a player similar or adding something to go up a little bit, I think that's kind of why I brought it up, is maybe you got a window here to potentially get out of Terry, and I love him. I think he's a good player. Like, you know, I just them using Jahan Dotson this week and showing what Jahan Dotson could do in this system when you actually throw him the ball. If I could get, Jahan Dotson in a 2 seems like cheap for Terry McLaurin, but like, how long does Terry stay around? I don't know what the contract situation, should have checked into that, but I think Curtis Samuel's out of here after this year.
Lord hopes so.
And I think Jahan's a really good player, and you just turn back the clock, 8 years from Jahan to Terry and maybe get a 2. I think I'd be okay with
5
that.
years.
I don't know how old.
He's not 20.
I don't know how old. Well, he's 28, so I
The
mean,
Johns
29 million dead next year for Terry McLaurin.
So he's going nowhere.
He's going to be there.
Yeah, the out's in 2025. I don't know. I guess I'm at a hold because I don't know what to do with him. I agree with what Matt said, but I also agree that he's one of those players that I like to use the expression compound interest. I feel like he's one of those like stabilized assets that I know most weeks that he's going to be. He has a decent enough floor and enough target value that he's going to be good, and he's going to be on the Commanders this year, obviously next year. And he'll be playing in a contract year next year. So to me, I think I'm just a hold right now. I don't think I'm
George Pickens or Terry
I'm
McLaurin.
I'm going to stick with McLaurin there.
Pickens.
Pickens for you?
Yeah.
Pickens from Wah.
Ooh, all right. How about Ayuk? Ayuk or McLaurin?
Ayuk. Too easy.
Big D?
Yeah, I think Ayuk.
Yeah, he had a really weird drop this past week. The ball like hit him right in the face mask.
Yeah. Yeah. Not character.
Does that even count as a drop if you just don't get any hands on it?
Tried to stick it in his face mask. Little Giants him. All right.
What about you? Pickens or
Terry? I think Terry's the better player right now, but
Pickens just feels more fun.
yeah, I guess I could turn back the clock.
Pickens is fun, but like we said about Diontae, he wasn't on the field, right? So right. Diontae's not on the field, Pat's not on the field. What does Pickens look like? So that's kind of why I stick with McLaurin personally. But I agree with you. Pickens definitely is a lot more fun to watch in lots of ways. So
I'm counting on Pickens taking another step forward in 2024 when they finally fucking fire Matt Canada.
Fair enough. Last one. Nico Collins or Terry?
Nico.
Ooh, quick Nikos.
Yeah, I think Nico.
All right.
Another guy that I was buying in the 15th round this past offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about compound interest.
Talk about a
No doubt.
in one. All right, let's wrap this one up. Let's get on to 5 things that you must do right now because that's what you have to do immediately because we said so.
I got 3 things you should do.
What's that? Duck, dive, dodge?
No. Like,
subscribe. Like.
Look at you guys. Like, subscribe, comment below. $5 holler on the Discord.
Hit
all that
noti
jazz.
button. That's like 5 or 6 things, but
Yeah, whatever.
5-star review on the podcast.
All those things.
Not if you bundle it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's right. We're doing it all for your pleasure. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.